What you are listening to now is the Central Indiana Sports Report's Colts Report. This week with Sam Frick of ANEC Sports, Michelle Garmon, the sports editor at the Tipton Tribune and Elwood call leader, and our Pacers guy, Mike Rich, breaking down the Colts' performance in a 29-28 win over the Denver Broncos. We all broke down the film and gave our assessments of each position, each player, the coaching, whether it was game preparation or in-game decision-making, two completely different grades, by the way, and so much more, our evaluation of the Colts through 2 weeks and what we expect going forward.
You are listening to the Central Indiana Sports Report's Colts Report. This week with Sam Frick, Mike Rich, and Michelle Garmon to break down the Colts' 29-28 win over the Broncos on Sunday. And here's your host, Greg Mingelt.
Welcome back, Colts fans, to the Central Indiana Sports Report for the Colts Report. And guys, this is the podcast where we're very critical of what the Colts did, and we pick apart their team, not right after they beat the Denver Broncos. That was not the time to be doing that. This is the time to be doing that. And I broke down the film, and believe me, I gave some poor grades in this one. But we're going to go unit by unit. I'm just going to ask how everybody felt about how that unit performed, or player when it comes to Daniel Jones, or coach when it comes to. And let's just start right there, guys. Let's start with Sam. I give a lot of credit to the playmakers and the offensive line, which the pass blocking was brilliant. But I think more than anything, for the second week in a row, and I can't believe I'm saying this, the Colts offense just schemed themselves into a great offensive performance. It was perfectly schemed.
Yeah, especially the second half. I think once they made some adjustments second half, I think you definitely saw more of what we saw the first week against Miami. I would definitely say Daniel Jones for the second week in a row definitely got a really good grade. I would have not told, if you would have told me 2 weeks in a row we'd be having Daniel Jones be one of our better players, I'd be saying, first off, I think you had a couple too many drinks for one night. I would have thought you're crazy. But he has been great so far.
I think Daniel Jones has been a force multiplier. So I think he's making other people better. I think last year we depended on making our quarterback better. I think that's why we had so many drops. I think that's why our offense was stagnant last year. I think Daniel Jones puts the ball where it needs to be. He can make the passes that Anthony Richardson could not make. He just shows that he's the veteran and he deserved that spot. So really good to stick it to the New York Giants to highlight another player that they lost that comes to another team and is currently thriving. So, but I think he makes the team better. I think got one of the best running backs in the game. He's got a good receiving core. He's got a great new weapon. Warren's fantastic, and he's going to be fantastic. But I think Daniel Jones elevates their game, and that's what we've been missing. So I know it's only 2 games in.
Yeah. We're going to see the real.
I think this week's going to be a big test. I think Tennessee's a much better team than they were last year. I think Cam Ward is going to come into his own, and I think it's not going to be an easy win.
I'm going to agree with Greg. I think the scheme was good for the most part. The
scheme and the blocking really helped Daniel Jones.
There were a couple things where Steichen, I thought, sometimes in the red zone, not so much in the second half, and then at the end of the game, I still don't like that. But I will say this: Daniel Jones and Shane Steichen seem to be on the very same page, and Daniel Jones has a lot of trust in that receiving core because he is getting rid of the football, putting it where it's supposed to meet them when they come out of the break instead of holding it to see if they're going to come out of the break okay. He's trusting his wide receivers and especially like Michael Pittman Jr., who is an outstanding route runner. And I think
they all are.
Yeah, and then you got Warren, like you said, just a great extra great weapon, and
every time it was a big third down, he was going to Tyler Warren every time.
And you have Jonathan Taylor, who is a dual threat.
Oh, good.
Running and good on the passing, and I loved that swing pass. In fact, I was disappointed they didn't go to it late in the game because they did not Denver did not stop that swing pass to Jonathan Taylor at all.
Here's something I didn't know about Daniel Jones is he is one tough son of a bitch. There were at least 3 times he stood in and got just drilled and threw the ball right on target. He's not the most talented quarterback in the NFL. And again, I do not want him to be the Colts franchise quarterback. I do not. I know his limitations. I've seen him. We've also seen him be very good with the Giants at times. There's a reason he had the nickname Danny Dimes for a year and a half. But there are limits, and let's go to the next unit, and I'll let you say what you're going to say. But the biggest reason that Daniel Jones has been so good has been the pass protection, which, except for Bernard Ryman, has been nearly flawless.
I think Steichen naming Daniel Jones a starter before the last game of the preseason and saying this isn't for now, this is for the entire season. He's not really had that. We all know the Giants offense.
But when he named Jones the quarterback, we knew why. We all knew that now he's better than Richardson.
I don't think Danny Jones has had that security. I think that's part of it. I think he's got some confidence because that job is his. And Steichen came out and said that. And I think that's made him confident in the system too.
You know what else has made him confident,
his offensive line.
Is the offensive line. He's got to watch his blind side because Ryman just cannot be completely healthy. And as I said Sunday, and it was going back and watching the film, even more glaring, Tyler Warren is an enthusiastic blocker. Right now, he is not a good blocker. Jones got sacked, I believe, twice. One of them, they were both tight end responsibilities. And then he got hit another time, and Bortolini did miss one assignment. Other than that, guys, this run blocking wasn't perfect, but pass blocking was nearly perfect.
It wasn't as good this past week as it was the first week, but obviously it did its job extremely well. And I would agree with you.
And the Broncos are way better.
It's way better than it was when he was in New York. That is 100% for sure. So far with Daniel Jones, he's not turned the ball over, which is critical because that has been the infamous line with Daniel Jones is he always fumbles the football. So far, that hasn't happened so far, and that's going to have to continue if the Colts are going to be successful and win the AFC South.
If he doesn't get hit, he's not going to fumble, and he hasn't been touched very much. And those are 2 pretty good defensive lines. Don't get me wrong. He will see I am certain that there will be a point in this season that we're sitting here on the Colts report talking about, is this the best we can do at quarterback? I'm certain of this. But he has looked great so far.
Yeah, he has. I'll be interested to see if Tennessee puts together a few blitz packages, special blitz packages.
You're going to have
to try to get to him, to rattle him early in this game so he doesn't get into a rhythm, because that's been another thing. They have schemed so well, and even though they didn't always get touchdowns in the red zone, and I know he overthrew downs on that one, but he has gotten into a rhythm early, and I think that will be a key is if a team comes out and can throw him off that, not let him get into that rhythm, how does he regroup and how does Shane Steichen adjust play calling to help?
We might as well just go here. I was going to give Jonathan Taylor an A, and then I watched the film, and I'm moving it to A+ because he had 3 blitz pickups that were extraordinarily good. I did not know he was that good of a pass blocker.
Probably the best he's played in probably, 2 years, 3 years? Yeah. I think that was the best he's played in a while. And he's a really good running back. I'm not making like he's a bad running back. He's a great running back, but it is the best we've seen in a while.
Yeah. They don't win that game without Jonathan Taylor on Sunday.
Not even close.
Oh, not even close. He just controls another dimension of the game. What do you end up with? 160, 170 total yards or something? I'm just glad it's not a contract year for him. I'm glad he's signed and he's playing and he's earning every dime he signed for. So,
and the wide receiver,
I really enjoyed watching Quentin Nelson and the enthusiasm he had when they were scoring touchdowns and just really into it. That guy's been, he's been there for the hard times we've had over the past several years, and he's just an all-pro type of player, and I think that leadership on that offensive line is what makes it good. I agree. Left tackle. What's he been a left tackle for 3-4 years?
And he's been great. He's been great through the last couple of years. They signed him to a big contract. I don't think he's healthy,
I don't either.
And again, he faced two really, really good defensive ends. But still, he looked like they couldn't run behind him at all. They were running behind Gonsalves and Smith on the other side most of the time. He just does not look good, and I hope it's a temporary thing.
Hey, Mike, you mentioned Quentin Nelson. I thought that's the best job he's done as a pulling guard in a long time. He really got out in front. He looks like he's maybe in a little bit better shape than he's been in the past 2 years.
Yeah, he looks a little thinner, a little leaner, but when he got hit in the knee, I was a little nervous. He's just a tough dude. I also think what makes our offensive line a lot better is our defensive coordinator. He knows the schemes that are going to be coming. He can create those in the practices, and he can show different things to our offense to be prepared for probably almost any scheme that a defense is going to throw at him. And I think that has just been huge too for us.
He seems like a good one. I don't know much about him. I know that he's had good defenses wherever he's gone, but I'm impressed so far. But I do need to go to this, guys. The front seven last week was horrible. And I mean horrible. There was zero pressure on Bo Nix, almost zero. The linebackers, Franklin looked lost. He was missing tackles, missing assignments, can't cover in defense. He made a big stop late in the game that they don't win the game if he doesn't make. So I want to give him credit there. But Ekubon, who is at best a second-team linebacker, was their best linebacker. They've got to upgrade at linebacker or they're not winning games. They're not going to win a lot of these games.
No.
Yeah, definitely saw a letdown from our linebackers last week. Would definitely like to see an upgrade in the deadline for that because I thought the first week was kind of a misnomer for our linebackers unit because we were playing Miami. I thought that this past week was going to be a much tougher task for our linebackers, and unfortunately, we struggled against Bo Nix. So I would agree wholeheartedly. Yeah. I would give it a C.
I would probably agree with a C, but I think injuries played part of that too. I think Latu's hamstring, Ward being out, I think those two are pretty key to making Franklin's job a lot easier. I thought and I think Bocce probably he has the most tackles for the Colts right now. So,
oof, not good. I'm so a little surprised it's not the defensive backs because they tackle better than our linebackers.
That doesn't surprise me though. I'm not impressed with him out there, and especially in coverage. And it'll be interesting to see. I don't know that Tennessee's got it in him, but somebody is going to have a scheme where they're going to get him matched get him matched up on a tight end or a running back somehow, and they're going to exploit that with Franklin.
I isolated on him watching the game, and it was bad, guys. I mean, like running into blocks, missing tackles that were not difficult tackles to make. It just was not good. None of them are good, but I thought in particular Franklin was bad. And then the defensive backfield, you kind of got to give an incomplete. I'll get back to you, Mike. The defensive backfield, you got to get an incomplete. You mentioned Ward. Without Ward, and then Howard is just not an NFL player anymore. He's on his last legs. He was really bad. Kenny Moore was great.
Yes.
Kenny Moore is awesome. I love Kenny Moore all around. I think he's just a great person. He does a lot for the community. He does a lot for kids. And he produces on the field. I absolutely love Kenny Moore. Going back to Franklin, he had a good year last year. He led the NFL in tackles. He had 173 tackles last year.
Stat, Mike.
What wasn't too bad, but we need more of that. We need more of that this year.
You're right.
Kenny Moore for defensive MVP. I also want to make sure we emphasize Tennessee is not a great football team, but they have Tony Pollard, and he hasn't been living up to what he has done in Dallas. I know it's not the same team at all from Tennessee from Dallas, but Tony Pollard is a pretty decent running back. So I worry about our linebackers unit not quite living up to what's expected here, and that's something to keep an eye on for this week when we're playing Tennessee. But as far as Kenny Moore goes, he's our most important player on that side of the field, no question.
You're right, because Dobbins actually had a pretty good game for Denver. I mean, he had some good runs and everything.
A lot of big holes.
So it'll be interesting when the Colts play a team that actually has a really good passing attack to go with an explosive running back that and how the defense holds up. And I think the scheme is going to be great because I like their defensive coordinator. I just don't think he's got all the guys he needs to make his defense top notch. I think they'll do their best to hopefully come back to acquire those players in the offseason.
I hope they don't wait till the offseason.
I don't know what they really have as far as pieces to make a trade.
My last grade, the defensive line was not very good. The pass rush was an F. The defensive middle there with Buckner and Lewis and Stewart, they were not very good. I think a lot of that had to do with Denver's offensive line being really good. But I don't think the middle of that defense is good enough to win a lot of games, and they're going to have to do something there. But they're 2-0. And Lou Anarumo looks like he is the right choice. And I don't think you take anything away, despite some low grades here after watching the film. You win a game anyway. I think that's a good sign. And I think if you're going to say anything with the grading so far is that not the coaching, not during the game, but the game planning has been the one thing that's been an A.
Yeah, I think so too. And I'm going to point out something that I think is really good. We haven't heard from Chris Ballard. We don't see Chris Ballard. And that hasn't been the case the last few years. And I think that may also be helping Shane Steichen, because Ballard's not trying to micromanage him in some ways with who he needs to play in different things. Carly Gordon, the headsets, I think she's
clearly involved.
Clearly, I think she wants to know the play calls to make sure there's communication is smooth, and she's making her own notes and probably grading. Yeah. But I think she's keeping Ballard away from Steichen.
I don't think that she has the headphones on and the notebook just for those purposes. I think she's showing her team that she's watching.
I think there's a sense of accountability being placed, and I think that's huge with the ownership as it is. I think it's brought a sense of accountability to the Colts, a sense of wake-up call. Hey, we need to get things in order, if you would, for the Colts. So good to see that from his daughters.
Yes, it is.
Going back to the defensive side, we're talking about the defense having some issues here. This calls for the emphasis of needing somebody like a Trey Hendrickson to come into the Colts. Because if you get that type of blockbuster move, that would change everything about the defensive front. And right now, Cincinnati, they're kind of spinning their wheels a little bit with what's going on with Joe Burrow and quarterback right now. Right. If the Bengals continue to nosedive in the standings, there may be a demand for Trey Hendrickson at some point. That would be something to keep an eye on if we get to the trade deadline and Hendrickson's name's still out there. So it's just something to watch here. But if we do make a move, someone on the defensive end or in the linebacker position, I think is something we're going to have to keep note of that throughout the course of the season. Because I agree with you, Greg. We're not going to do anything in the playoffs if we don't get that addressed.
Guys, Kwity Paye is much, much better in this role than he was last year, the role they have him playing this year. But he's not an NFL starter, guys. He's just not.
He's a situational player.
He's got to be a situational player. His pass rushing is not good enough. An upgrade at defensive end would be nice. All right, let's look at the Colts real fast. Titans and at the Rams, so that's a tough one. Raiders at home, Cardinals at home, at the Chargers, and then Tennessee at home. So I think I was predicting they'd be 1-6 after 7 games. Now I think they could be 5-2.
I did say the Colts would be more optimistic at the start of the year. I think I had my 4 wins around the halfway mark of the season. So I was more hopeful for the Colts starts than all of you were. But I will agree that there's going to be a point in that schedule where it's going to get tougher. And when we get to that West Coast road trip, that's definitely going to be a test for us, particularly with the Rams and the Chargers and playing the Raiders. Certainly going to be a tall task, if you would, for the Colts.
I'm interested to see how they look on the road. I'm interested to see how they go and this team plays on the road.
And we will have our preview coming up on Friday, and we will make our predictions for that one. I think some of you have already made your predictions. I know I'm going to be taking the Colts, but I expect a pretty good game in Nashville, guys.
I think it'll be closer than people think.
Yeah, I think so. It's going to be interesting. I like I said, I'm looking forward to seeing how they go on the road Sunday and how they play at Tennessee.
Perfect way to end it. Thanks, guys. That was fun. The Central Indiana Sports Report is a product of IDG Media, and I love Susie.